Hey everybody with the Menschwarmers, I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Happy Pesach to everyone, celebrating now. We're recording this on the 5th night of Pesach. Where we
have an easy fast to my fellow vegetarians.
That's right. We've passed the 5th question. As of the 4 nights of the 4 questions, as my understanding goes. No, that's not true. For those of you who know, lots of you who know, if you know this intimately, my wife has celiac disease, which I think fits the Jewish sports podcast stomach issues themes. But she has celiac disease, which we call this the Solidarity Week for her, because most people's kosher for Passover. If you're eating the pretty good gluten-free matzah, most people's kosher for Passover lifestyle is just what she does all the time. In like a Sephardic way. She has
Passover coinciding with a 4-day weekend and needing to feed children like kosher for Passover snacks.
Yeah.
And everything else for 4 days. It's been straining. It's been straining our abilities. But we're not here to talk about that.
No,
we're here to talk about sports. I think it's a good time in sports for Jews right now.
It is. It's been an exciting Pesach. Baseball season is in full swing, pun intended, since we last spoke. Unfortunately, not the banner year for Jews who broke camp with the teams this year.
It's a surprisingly sparse year, I would say. Like I believe there's 6 major league players right now, currently on rosters. Obviously, there will be others who play this year. Yes. There's 6 Jews on major league rosters as we speak, or as of opening day.
And one of them had no starts until today. Jock Peterson had his first lineup starting today, and then he did hit a home run.
That's good. Like to see Jews rake. But,
exactly. Jews raking is pretty good.
Let's go through them. I mean, there's only 6. So on the rubber, obviously we have Max Fried, who is looking to follow up from another Cy Young worthy season in 2025. I think he's continuing on that trend. He's had two really solid starts.
2 really solid starts. Yeah, he's been fantastic.
And Jake Bird in Colorado, who's going to come in as a relief pitcher for the most part, should see some time this year. I think we saw him in Toronto.
Just to clarify, Bird is actually a Yankee this season.
Oh,
yes. He has joined the Yankees. He broke camp with them after spring training, and the Yankees are the only team with 2 Jews in baseball, actually.
Oh, my mistake. I guess I'm thinking back to last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jake Bird came in, I think, in relief today. He has gotten a few appearances with the Yankees this year. And then on the hitting side, Alex Bregman, obviously the standout Jewish baseball player, third baseman now for the Chicago Cubs. Mm-hmm. We had Alex on a few years ago. Disappointed to see he didn't join Team Israel in the WBC, but was has been a key contributor for Team USA.
Team USA, exactly.
He's already hit 2 home runs for the Cubs. I think he's going to have a lot of fun out there. I'm sure have a lot of support from North Side Jews, of which there are plenty.
Absolutely. After a injury plagued first season in Pittsburgh, Spencer Horwitz broke camp with the team. Pittsburgh's off to an actually a surprisingly decent start. I think better than a lot of people thought they would be, although there's some rumors that they might be a playoff team this year. If that's the case, Spencer, he hits high in the lineup. He's expected to be a really big part of that. They called up their number 1 prospect, Connor Griffin, who is not Jewish, but will share the infield with first baseman Spencer Horwitz. He's not off to the best start. He did have
anytime you see a guy who spells their name with a K, I feel like that's a sign that someone's not Jewish.
Someone's not Jewish.
Connor with a K is a non-Jewish giveaway. Beyond that, Jock Peterson, who we already mentioned, and Harrison Bader, who's now the center fielder for the San Francisco Giants. Mm-hmm. So that's it. That's sparse. Like most years that we've talked about this, we used to do a Jewish baseball Seder where instead of the 10 plagues, we would read 10 active Major League Baseball players.
And we couldn't get it. There weren't enough this year.
Couldn't do it this year. I mean, let's just chat a little bit, not name everyone, but there are some guys who I think we're going to see soon. The number 1 top of that list for me is Dean Kramer. Who's been, a really frontline starter for the Orioles the last couple of years. Had a good year last year, threw 170 innings. I think his ERA was just around 4. But was surprisingly sent down to the minors.
Yeah.
And, we'll have to work his way back up to the big leagues.
Absolutely. There's a couple that are likely to make the league this year as Blue Jays fans. I think we're all watching RJ Schreck.
Sure.
Who, the Blue Jays are currently being racked with injuries, and he's going to be a guy up soon. He's in AAA. Another one we could talk about in the same division, Harris and Cohen are also going. Harrison Cohen is a Yankees prospect who is likely to make the team at some point this year.
He's a guy who's on his way up. I think, just sort of will be based on need, but given how many arms teams tend to go through, it wouldn't be surprising to see him relatively soon. I think,
absolutely.
Right?
And then two other teams that both have playoff aspirations had Jewish players in their starting lineups last season. That's Colton Gordon on the Astros, bullpen arm, and Zach Geloff, who is still, I think a big part of Oakland's future. He just had a pretty bad year last year and wasn't out of options. So they optioned him, let him get some confidence in AAA. And he has been smashing in AAA for the last, it's only been a week, but he has 4 home runs already. And he's still only 26. So he is, he's got, a future ahead of him. We know his brother Jake's also in the minors. But I think Zach, with the start of the season he's having, is expected to be back in the bigs sooner rather than later.
Yeah, a couple other guys who are sort of, in the mix. I think, Garrett Stubbs has been a major league backup for the Phillies, a catcher for most of the last 4 years. Last year, he didn't play much. I think there's some injury there as well, but now he's been outrighted to AAA. Josh Bloom, I think is, a young guy for the Mets whose status looking up, but he's currently injured. Max Lazar of the Phillies, again, should be back in the mix at some point. But fighting injury as well. And Scott Efros, I think signed with the Tigers in this offseason.
I think so. He's in AAA as well.
Yeah, but he's injured as well. So I think, it'll be a way back for him. He'll have to work his way back up. Had some effective years in the past with the Cubs and the Yankees. But the last couple of years have been sort of more plagued with injury and difficulty. So again, we'll see. I think in years past, we've gotten up to like 18, 19 Jewish major leaguers during the year.
Yeah.
There's an increasing amount of churn these days with Major League Baseball teams. So, we'll have to keep an eye on things. And, prospects can have, explosive years. They can go from single A to the majors we saw with the Jays last year. So
absolutely. Anything could happen. I also think to add it, I believe Jared Schuster was called up today by the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay. So he would be the next Jewish baseball player in the league. So we're up to 7. Yeah, he was called up, I believe, today.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and just to get ahead of ourselves for MLB draft watchers, we should say that future number 1 pick Rock Chalowski is not Jewish. I think we looked at it. So
yeah,
you see the ski on the name, and it's always the question of, is this Polish? Is this something else?
He's got a really cool name. And he goes to UCLA,
definitely.
Which would also imply that, he might be Jewish, but no, we're like 99% confident that Rock Chalowski is not Jewish. One other Jewish player we haven't mentioned who's been off to a good start is new Blue Jays signer Dylan Cease. He's not fully discussed often. He gets forgotten in Jewish baseball as he's not really been, I don't know. He's been plenty vocal
I believe
about it.
I believe he has one Jewish grandparent, which is why he was able to be on the Israel roster at some point.
He said previously to friend of the pod, Lewis Keane, my dad is Jewish.
Okay.
So even though he's not fully canceled, we consider him Jewish. We talked a lot about his being the first Jew since I think Ken Holtzman to throw a no-hitter. So he's, we're counting him for that. So he's also a Jew in baseball, and he's been off to 2 starts.
Hey, and he just signed a 7-year deal with the Jays. So at some point he's going to have to come on this podcast and talk to us.
Of course, exactly. About he might be the only Jewish disc golf player we can think of. Speaking of Jews in fringe sports, we have a really exciting interview today.
Yeah, it's true. We usually talk about it right at the top, but we were so excited to chat baseball. We didn't mention that we have Korey Dropkin coming in.
That's Olympic silver medalist Korey Dropkin to you.
I believe he was at least the first Jew to win a medal at the most recent Milano Cortina Olympics, because the mixed doubles curling was right at the start.
Right at the beginning.
Only that, we asked Korey Dropkin and Nick Sulsky, who is the owner and founder of the Rock League, which is a new curling enterprise. It was really exciting to talk to him and Korey about Rock League and everything they're doing there, and talking to Korey about his Olympic journey and everything he's done to focus on curling, his role as a Jewish athlete and all that. It's very interesting stuff.
We would be remiss not to mention that if you or any of our listeners are looking for a new home in the Minneapolis, Duluth, Madison area, Korey Dropkin is your guy. He does have a day job. He talks a little bit about that. That's something that curling Olympians, wear proudly, is that they pay their own way.
Yeah.
All around the world.
So Rock League is starting soon. It is like I would say the newest, first, biggest attempt at like pro.
Like a pro curling, team-based curling, franchised curling.
I think I've seen this talked about as being like a preview season, that next year there will be more, being on the road and stuff like that. This year it's at Mattamy Center.
And it's entirely in Toronto. It's a 1 week sort of tournament that's in Toronto to show what it's going to be. We see
it's at Mattamy, which is the old Maple Leaf Gardens.
Maple Leaf Gardens, that's right.
One way or another, for the first time in almost 60 years, there's going to be a champion at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah, hey, absolutely, and it could even be a Jewish one.
A pro champion, yeah,
a pro champion.
At Maple Leaf Gardens.
We talked to Korey. We asked him this. He thinks he's the only Jewish Olympic curler that has ever happened. We did confirm that his teammate, on Team USA, even though he's the four-man skip, Danny Casper from New York, is not Jewish, even though he could be, knowing he's a redhead from New York and his name is Danny. That's like a good start. But we know that he's not Jewish. Korey thinks he's the only one, but he's a really interesting guy. Has a lot to talk about, his history in curling, the Olympic process, how much fun he's having, and looking forward to being in Toronto next week. And if anybody listening to this is in Toronto, I think this is coming out on the 7th. It's going all up until the 12th. It'll be at Mattamy every single day. The playoffs are this weekend. That's the 11th and 12th. And it should be a blast. You'll hear in the interview sort of what they're planning on, but it should be a really cool event.
A bonspiel for the ages.
A bonspiel, that's right.
Before we get to the interview, Gabe, a recent piece of news I want to break to our listeners, chat about a little bit, which is that Amar'e Stoudemire has been elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame.
That's amazing.
Hora, mazel tov to Amar'e. This is what an accomplishment, huh?
Huge mazel tov to Amar'e. We have a connection to Amar'e. We've been on the same event bill as him before. We sort of
sure.
I feel like we run in a lot of the same circles. I think it's incredibly proud. I didn't think this would happen. I am not a very good. I'm not we are not Basketball Hall of Fame voters. I don't.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because it sounds like you're saying you think he wasn't necessarily. You didn't know he was quite at that level, I guess.
It's not that I didn't know he was quite at that. I didn't see him. You don't think of him as being one of the greatest power forwards of all time. But. Maybe
I think that 7 seconds or less, Suns team that he was part of, it has a real stature in terms of how it changed basketball.
Yeah.
But also like his stats, his actual stats, his counting, stats, blocking stuff, pretty impressive. He's a 6-time All-Star.
Yeah.
One-time All-NBA first team, 4-time All-NBA second team.
And,
so that's like,
he was, I think, a unanimous Rookie of the Year. So, he had a lot of talent that was obviously very, very shown. He led the league in baskets made. For a number of years, just sort of because of the speed, the role he played on Phoenix. Like, he was an incredibly effective player. One thing I didn't realize, and this sort of speaks to his, he did play 14 years in the NBA, which is a very good long career.
And keep in mind as well, it is not the NBA Hall of Fame; it's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Basketball overall Hall of Fame. Which
obviously, I think maybe it doesn't shine quite as bright, but Amar'e had an amazing career in Israel as well.
He did.
He had two championships there. I think he was the Finals MVP one time. He was a pretty dominant player in his years in Israel towards the end of his career. I think he might have had a year or two in China as well. It's sort of the whole thing, and he was one of probably the last. I guess aside from LeBron, like really the last great high school player as well. I think it's it's amazing to think of someone doing that, given that that was stopped, I guess, in 2006 or 2005.
Him and I guess
it's been a long time.
His Hall of Fame, his now Hall of Fame teammate, Dwight Howard. The two of them are going into the Hall of Fame together this year. Two sides of the same coin, with Amar'e as the big man who is the offensive whiz and Dwight who is the defensive whiz. But Amar'e is they're both high school players. And just so as you know, Amar'e, has I would say of most Jewish athletes, goes really, really hard on his Judaism. He studies his gematria.
He's doing a ton of Torah study on day-to-day basis. He's out in the vanguard of talking about Jewish issues, which is not atypical, I think, for people who I don't even know if I want to use the term convert, because I've heard him refer to himself as Baal Tshuva. So
yeah,
I'm not exactly sure what the preferred nomenclature he has there, but as someone who, let's say, came to Judaism or observant Judaism later in his life, anyways, it's not that surprising because he's so committed to it. But it's amazing to see. I think he's a real person to look up to.
He's a
especially
huge ambassador.
People who are more observant and want to be involved in sports.
Absolutely, he's a huge ambassador. He's also a big supporter in New York, where he spends part of his time in Israel, part of his time in New York. He's a big supporter of yeshiva basketball. Shows up to their games. Was coaching for the Knicks, for the Nets for a while being Shomer Shabbos, which is quite impressive. For what he can do, and I agree with you. I didn't know, I'm not, like I said, a basketball expert. His career averages are about 19 and 8, which is good. That's an amazing career. And
sort of that, I would say it's that, that 5 years of being an all NBA first or second team player, like where it's like, that's 5 years where you can say like, look, Amar'e is one of the best 10 players in the game.
Yeah.
That's a long stretch of being one of the truly the best, and again, he played in an era with some pretty good power forwards during his prime. So, another era that we would have said, yeah, Amar'e's number one or first team all NBA. So, never got over the hump with Phoenix. I think for a lot of people, that feels like the title that should have happened somewhere in that 2006, 2007, 2008.
Yes.
Range,
came very, very close. There's a second connection. Judaism has to the Hall of Fame right now, or this year. 3-time WNBA champion Candace Parker is being inducted into the Hall of Fame this season. 2-time MVP. She doesn't have a correct, the biggest Jewish connection, but her brother, Anthony Parker, played many years for Maccabi Tel Aviv, was a huge star in Israel, and then came back.
And wore 18 when he came back to the NBA.
Wore 18 when he came back to the NBA to sort of honor his time in Israel. So, a family with connection is getting into the Hall of Fame as well. Which is pretty cool. Similarly, one of probably Amar'e's most famous coach, Mike D'Antoni. I think with both the Knicks and the Suns, Mike D'Antoni is also going into the Hall of Fame with Amar'e.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So really good stuff for Amar'e. And before we move on from round ball, we should say it's, I think by the time this comes out, the NCAA men's finals will have happened, but they are between Michigan and UConn. I mean, obviously two schools with plenty of Jewish fans, but also with Jewish players as well, because Michigan features Harrison Hochberg, who is a forward, is a junior. He's not played, I don't think, in any of the tournament games, but he has, gotten into games in previous years. He's a walk-on. But very cool to see him make it to the Final Four. And Connecticut as well has Alex Karaban, who I know, having looked into this in the past, has some Jewish heritage. I think he's one of his parents, or maybe both of his parents, are Soviet Jews. So I don't know how much he connects or identifies necessarily. Haven't heard him reporting on that or talking about that, but I believe has some Jewish heritage, Jewish identity. He's like one of those this guy's 23 years old. How is he still playing in college kind of thing? Like, feels like he's been around. I feel like he's been around like forever. But I think it's just because he's featured on UConn, that's had such good teams the last few years.
Yep.
And could certainly be an NBA draft pick, maybe a second round pick. So there should be a Jewish NCAA men's champion.
It's pretty exciting. I mean, as we talked about it, when Harrison Hochberg eventually graduates, like, he's going to have a really good, story in law school interviews, or I should say in law interviews. Like, it's, he's unlikely,
right.
Maybe he'll play somewhere, around the world. But it sort of seems unlikely that he'll be, making a career out of basketball, but it's still pretty impressive that he's part of this team.
Right.
Extremely cool. Extremely cool.
On the women's side, they lost in the Elite Eight, but we want to mention that Duke has an interesting Jewish connection, which is that Toby Fournier, who is really one of their standout players this year, is the daughter of Degrassi star Anais Granovsky, who is herself half Jewish.
Who is the daughter of Phil Granovsky.
Or
she the
granddaughter
of Phil Granovsky.
Granddaughter of Phil Granovsky, who was one of the
yeah.
One of the founders and minority owners of the Raptors. You may remember her as Lucy from Degrassi, the original Degrassi, and that is Toby Fournier's mom. I don't know how much she identifies. One of her grandparents, I suppose, is Jewish, but pretty cool stuff.
It's good enough for us. One thing,
Granovsky Jewish basketball legacy.
One thing I find very interesting about Toby Fournier personally is she went to Crestwood. Which is sort of a school in Midtown Toronto, which has become sort of a global women's basketball power.
Right.
They have sent a lot of women to D1. Aaliyah Edwards is currently in the WNBA. I think people are seeing Toby Fournier as absolutely a WNBA player. There are a couple of other Crestwood players who are currently playing. In one of them played in the finals today for South Carolina. So it's pretty cool. Like I went to a different high school than Crestwood, but I see that now that they have become a real basketball power, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. I mean, I think of Crestwood as being it's a non-sectarian school, but certainly has had lots of Jewish students over the years. I've known lots of people who've gone there or to the summer camp there. So very cool that it's become such a basketball powerhouse. I don't know how you turn into that sort of thing, but I guess it happens.
I mean, it could be you get a player like Aaliyah Edwards and the rest sort of like snowballs.
Sure.
But it really has
good
become
coaches
one.
and good facilities and things like that. Very cool. So good luck to all those, to Harrison and Alex. I guess they'll probably have played the finals, I think, by the time people are hearing this, but should have a new Jewish NCAA champion. Gabe, why don't we move on to our interview with Korey and Nick. Very excited to be joined today by Korey Dropkin and Nick Sulsky. Korey, let's start with you just by saying congratulations. And, how did it feel to win an Olympic medal? What an accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Man, it feels great. It's a dream come true. I had an absolute blast over in Italy. Just had the time of my life, to be honest. It was the most fun week of curling I've ever experienced. And to have it be at the Olympics is pretty special. But yeah, happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me, and looking forward to the conversation.
This is, maybe a sort of sad way to start, but I wanted to ask you about something, because the nature of team sports or certain Olympic competitions where you compete, head to head, is that if you are the silver medalist, which you are, it does mean that you lost your last game. What was that like? I mean, you go into the game knowing that you're going to win either gold or silver. Did it, was it a devastating loss? Does it feel tempered by virtue of, having this? Again, I'm not at all criticizing a silver medal. It's an amazing accomplishment, and it's the nature of, the curling round robin that you're going to lose a few games here or there, but you happen to lose the last one. What does it feel like to go into that last one, knowing you're coming away with it and ultimately not being able to win?
Yeah, great question. The best way to answer that is there's a little bit less stress in terms of there's a bit weight off of your shoulders. I'm not really in the business of complaining about being an Olympic medalist, right?
I don't think you have anything to complain about or anything to be.
It's a lot of years of hard work and dedication. That's really been just such a battle to get to, and so much sacrifice and so many years of just passionate focus on my craft and on our craft with Korey. And it is heartbreaking though. You dream about being in that gold medal Olympic game, you dream about winning that game. Yes, you dream about being on that podium, but you dream about being on top of that podium and listening to your own national anthem. And so there was a lot of bittersweetness that went with the loss of that game. And, going into that game, we knew we were going to be on the podium. We knew we were going to be at least silver medalists. And so that definitely made it a little bit easier to play. I think that bronze medal game, you're probably still stressing a little bit, trying to hide it, tuck that away, and just focus on playing your game like you did all week. And that gold medal game was a great game too. It did feel like we were just a half inch off here and there.
Sure.
And man, Isabella, she was game. She was queen. She played really well that game too, and Rasmus too. At the end of the day, it's those are two great people and two well-deserved gold medalists right there.
And James, for a bit of background, I'll give Korey a little bit of a rope here, or a little bit of a life preserver.
This is Nick joining us, by the way, as we mentioned earlier.
Oh, hi everybody. I've spoken to a lot of curlers, and they all say, and Korey can kind of qualify this, that the most stressful game at the Olympics is actually the semifinal game. Right. That is when curlers are the most stressed, because at the Olympics there's 10 teams, battling all week, full round robin, all that kind of thing. That semifinal game is so stressful because if you win your semifinal game, you're guaranteed a medal. If you don't win your semifinal game, then the stress of finishing fourth at the Olympics it's a challenge. So, the fact that Korey were able to win their semi was great. And let's face it, the Swedish national anthem is way nicer than the Star Spangled Banner anyway. So, Korey, thank you for saving all of us from hearing that. I appreciate you.
That was quite big, dude.
It was.
Nobody even knew who was talking at first, too.
So I want to take it back a little bit, Korey. You don't hear a lot about the legends of Jewish curling. Where are you from? How did you get into the sport? And, I read you're somewhere in the Midwest now. Like, take us through your journey from young child to Olympic medalist, the best you can.
Yeah, just to give you a quick summary, born in Boston, raised in Southborough, Massachusetts, grew up curling out of Broomstones Curling Club. I really followed the love and passion that my parents and my brother had for the sport of curling. Older brother, 5 years older, and he was kind of my hero growing up, and I just followed his footsteps, kind of had my nose to the glass watching him kind of, come up through juniors in curling, and just traveled around following him. 20 years ago, I actually watched him compete in junior nationals in Duluth, Minnesota. And that was the first experience I had in Duluth. That was also the year of the 2006 Winter Olympics. Sure. And watching Pete Fenson's team win the bronze medal and stand on that podium in Torino, Italy, was the birth of my Olympic dream. And that was when I was like, this is what I want to do. A U.S. team can go to the Olympics for the sport of curling and win a medal. I want to do that. And I have to be an Olympian. This is the coolest thing ever. And so that's kind of when my mindset began, my dreams began for, continuing my pursuits in curling. And I gave up everything, pretty much sport wise when I was a junior in high school. I knew that I was going to move to Minnesota after high school. The destination was Duluth. And so I've been here for 13 years, just continuously in that pursuit. I work as well outside just to help be able to make a living. I used to be a landscaper. Now I'm a realtor. And so that's been great. But, the focus has really always been curling. And I've been so close a couple times, losing the Olympic trials final to John Schuster on the men's side in 2017 and 21 to go to the 18 and 22 Olympics.
And that was in the four-man. The four-man, whatever is that the term? Is the four-man the term?
Men's team, four-man curling, all that jazz. And in 2021, my mixed doubles team also lost the semifinal of the Olympic trials. So I've been so close so many times, and there's been so much heartbreak, so much defeat and disappointment, frustration, kind of all those feelings of, minor depression, that, one has to kind of live and learn from and find a way to kick themselves out of. And try to also use that as more fuel for the fire and keep on keeping on, because when you have your mind set on something and you just keep working hard towards it and keep taking those necessary steps, it's not really a miracle, it's just a matter of time. Just keep plugging away.
You know, the Olympics really seems like such a slog. You know, you're throwing pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. You and Corey TC, your teammate, seem to have a great connection. It seems like many of the other teams are either married or brother and sister pairs. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, your friendship and whether, you know, how much that contributed, how much you have to be of one mind with your mixed doubles partner when you're out there? Like, what's your communication like? What's your strategy like working together?
Totally. Yeah, we're just, you know, we're great friends. We've been friends since, you know, 2011 we met. 2012 we, you know, represented the country at Junior Worlds together. Moving to Duluth to go to UMD. She also went to UMD, so that's really what became better friends. And you know, honestly, we both kind of just respected each other so much for, you know, not just our craft, but you know, who we are as people off the ice, and that's kind of really helped in terms of, you know, our chemistry on and off the ice. And it's important to be good teammates, and we're great teammates to each other. We're definitely different, right? We have a different complexity, different mindset. You know, she brings that cool, calm confidence. You know, she's kind of the ice to my fire, and I bring that energy and you know, really all that emotion, because I like to display my emotions on my sleeve when I'm on the ice, you know, especially in mixed doubles. You know, in four-person men's, I've skipped for so long, and I feel like I've always been so contained, and then being able to kind of be in that, you know, sweepers system or sweepers mindset. It kind of allows me to break out of you know, the closet a little bit and be able to just show my emotions and express, you know, how I feel about this sport, how much I love the sport, and also be able to show my fitness. Right. I put so much of my time and effort into, you know, my pursuits and you know, being stronger and also being mentally sharper. And it's nice to be able to show everyone around this world that, you know, this sport, we are athletes. The sport of curling is a sport of athletes.
So that's a really good segue, you know, into your answer there and your answer before, into talking a little bit about the Rock League, this new project. Curling is one of the few Olympic sports, or not few, but one of the Olympic sports that gets really popular during the Olympics, and then a lot of people go back to their day jobs. Similarly, you mentioned you made the switch from I guess competing at the highest of the highest level from four-person, as you say, skipping to mixed doubles. So the Rock League seems like it sort of answers both those questions, or at least attempts to. Maybe you and Nick could tell us a little bit about what the project is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and I'll let Corey add some handsomeness to the answer and some youth.
That's easy.
It should be. Rock League is the first professional curling league ever to hit the sport. What's exciting about Rock League, it launches April 6th to 12th, all in Toronto, Mattamy Center, 3 games every day, going Monday through Sunday. What's exciting about Rock League, unlike every other big curling event around the world, is it's a game that mixes all of the Olympic formats. Okay. So basically, for the first time in curling, there are actually like team names and logos and designs, and each team has 5 men and 5 women on it. It's actually the first mixed gender professional sports league on earth. We have teams representing Asia, 2 from Europe, 2 from Canada, 1 from the United States. And during the event, one team plays another team on 3 sheets of ice. So there's 3 games going on to determine the winner of the match. And there's a men's fours game, a women's fours game, and a mixed doubles game, all happening at the same time. So teams are going to be competing to win 2 of the 3 matches, and they're going to be kind of playing together. Each team has a GM and a coach. You know, it's different than all of the other curling event series around the world. Like, I got into the sport. I'm not a curler. I put together a group and we acquired a property called the Grand Slam of Curling, which is the biggest curling event series in the world. It's been around for 25 years. 16 of the best men's teams and 16 of the best women's teams come to Each of our 5 events that we have each year, each event is 6 days long. It was owned by Rogers Sportsnet, the biggest sports media company in Canada. We bought it from Rogers Sportsnet primarily because, to your point, curling has a massive blow up every 4 years because of the Olympics. It's literally quantitatively the most watched Winter Olympic sport.
Really?
But
wow.
then, yeah, which is because there's so much curling on, right? It starts before the opening ceremonies, it goes all the way to the closing ceremonies.
And it televises so well. It's such
really
a good TV sport.
Exactly. And it's funny that you say that, but up until 2 years ago when we bought the Grand Slam of curling, Rogers Sportsnet never distributed any of that content outside of the country. It was just a Canadian sport, which is why curling is bigger here than anywhere else. So part of the thesis of what we're trying to do with Rock League and what we're trying to do with the entire sport of curling is we need to get the sport in front of eyeballs of the fans all around the world. You can't build a sport without actually being able to distribute that content and allowing fans to watch it, right? So the slams now are broadcast and distributed all over the world, as will Rock League. Like, we have a great partnership in Canada with CBC. It's going to be on Main Linear and on Gem throughout the entire week, which is really exciting. And we have a bunch of other international broadcast partners. So yeah, the project is quite literally, let's wrap this incredible sport that everybody falls in love with every 4 years around the world with a professional sport wrapping an ecosystem. So real money and real growth and real team IP, logos, jerseys, so people can root for Korey Dropkin or root against Korey Dropkin when he's playing, the Canadians.
Oh, who's going to be doing that? Really?
Nobody.
Hopefully not the listeners of this podcast. Although Korey, it's an audio medium, but Korey is currently doing a Bring It On, like a Morpheus style Bring It On.
It's all a hand talk I got. Nick's got enough for everybody here.
Yeah, you guys have been. There's a question. Back to Korey for a second. You guys have sort of been. The term would be chirping at each other, which we were talking about before we started recording, is a very, very much part of curling culture. Which I learned, 10 minutes ago. To both of you, we hear about chirping a lot in hockey culture. What's it like in curling culture? Korey, what are some of the best chirps you've either said or heard before? And we consider that to be Canadian. Why is it becoming American in curling at least?
Yeah, it's, chirps are definitely a little bit part of the sport. I will be fully candid with you. I'm not a big chirper. Nick and I have kind of gone back and forth a little bit on this, but I'm definitely not a big chirper. I know Danny Casper, Chris Plies, Shoe Steven is pretty good. Hamilton, a lot of the Canadian boys, especially you get the Sheriff Matty D going, and he'll battle back for sure.
Well, we saw that this Olympics for sure with the touch gate, I guess. Canadian.
Mark. Canadian. Mark Kennedy. He can chirp. But yeah, I know it's
Korey doesn't really chirp. He flexes. He really enjoys making sure that other people know how strong.
The old John Morris.
Yeah, John Morris he's been one of my heroes of the sport, and that man, I tell you what, he was always good showing off his biceps, and I'll take a little bit of taste of that, because I was definitely showing my biceps off a little bit at the Olympics. So
there you go.
It was on purpose. Now we know it was on purpose. That's good to know.
Yeah, but Gabe, what I will say is that one of the exciting things about curling is that all the players are mic'd. All the players are mic'd every game. There's no masks, no helmets. And I think from a Rock League perspective, one of the things that's really interesting is the teams, they're brand new teams, right? So you're going to have teammates that have been playing together for a decade, sometimes for more than a decade, playing against each other. So I think you're going to see the chirping is going to increase to a point that I don't think the sport has ever seen or heard, because you're going to have best friends who have been playing together literally since they've been teenagers, chirping each other. I guarantee you, Rachel Homan and Emma Miskew, who are two of the greatest curlers of all time, who won a bronze medal for Canada, they've been best friends, I think, since they're like 12 years old. They have never played on different teams.
Wow.
Emma is on Alpine, which is one of the European teams, and Rachel's the captain of Maple United. When Maple and Alpine play with one another, play each other, I predict that Rachel and Emma, there's going to be some chirps. There's going to be a lot of that, because teammates and best friends are going to be on different teams for the first time.
That's definitely what you see too commonly. Like, even on tour with your regular teams, we've just in general, the community made of a lot of friends. Everyone's got so many great relationships around the world and with all the other teams. And so that's typically where you see the troops coming in is when people are tight, that they want to see if they can get in your head a little bit, and they're going to give a little bit. So it's a give and take. It's a give and take for sure.
Well, I think speaking for the viewers, I mean, I think we want to see it. We want to see it in Rock League, as this is a team format, and whatever friendship goes out the door when you get on the ice. And there's no gloves to drop. I don't think it needs to go that far, but
no. But James, one of the other things that's going to be pretty exciting about Rock League is when you watch Olympic curling, there's 4 sheets on the ice, right? 4 games effectively that are going on. Rock League, there's only 3. But what we're doing with Rock League is we're introducing something called sheet side seating, where we're putting a bar and seats and standing right down the middle of the arena. So fans are going to have an adult beverage in their hand, and Korey's going to slide by, and they're going to be able to interact, let's just say. So that will be a very interesting new twist on a curling event.
That's a great question. Do you ever hear particular heckles from fans, or are curling fans generally well behaved, or maybe do they get can they get deep in? Is there something that will freak you out and you'll miss a shot, or are you too locked in to notice?
I think most curlers are going to be locked in, but there are some curlers that really like to interact and engage with the fans, and I think that's part of the nature of the sport, and I think that's where the fans especially want to see the sport going towards. I'd say in Italy, I had a good time interacting and just kind of helping build some energy with the crowd, because whenever the crowds get energy, it's kind of it kind of circulates through the building for me. So I enjoy that for sure. I know for sure playing in Canada though, most are respectable, but you always got the ones every once in a while that are going to chirp you and be like, go home, you don't belong here, something like that.
There's the famous picture from, I think it was the 2018 Olympics, of Rachel Homan's husband double fisting beers at 7:30 in the morning. I hope that's the crowd you get at the Rock League, just for the excitement of it all.
Oh yeah. And then there's the famous picture too of Brad Jacobs, kind of spinning his finger like, let's hear it. Give me some more booze.
Yeah. So this is is there a big camaraderie? I said everyone's on tour. Does the whole league go out for a beer after the match? Is that how it works generally? Or is there a little more love lost?
Oh, well, you know what? Before Korey, I'll tell you, the thing that made me fall in love with the sport, I mean, the sport's great. I remember going to my very first curling event, and after the game, I went to a bar across the street and I was having a pint with a buddy, and I saw the curlers that I just watched on the ice. They were in the bar, they were hanging out with each other, and they were hanging out with the fans. And I was like, because I grew up playing rugby, I was like, oh, there's a real community here. And so, I mean, the reality is these are elite athletes. So I think that the proper answer and the true answer is, if a team has an early morning game, they're sleeping. But if a team isn't playing until 2 or 4 in the afternoon or 6 in the afternoon, is the likelihood of them being out for drinks possible? Absolutely. And certain people on tour tend to partake a little more than others. But I mean, Korey's a very friendly fella, right?
Yeah. We should mention, obviously we're a Jews and Sports podcast. Korey, glad to have you for that reason. And we understand your dad's works at the Hebrew College in Newton, Massachusetts, was great. Nick, we understand you had some Maccabi participation in rugby in your youth. What's the prospects for getting curling in as a Maccabi sport? I mean, there's been some winter games in the Maccabi. Hockey's been in for a while, and now women's hockey as well. How do we get more Jews into curling, Jewish kids into curling, and get curling in the Maccabi?
That is a great question. And it's funny, I've been talking to the folks at the JCC here in Toronto, because as you guys probably know, the Junior Maccabi is coming August 2nd to this summer, August 2nd to 7th. And it's funny, I played senior Maccabi in 97 for Canada in rugby. I also played junior in Detroit, I think in 94 or something to that degree in softball and fast pitch.
Oh, wow, great.
And I've experienced it. It's such an incredible experience. And it's funny, the folks, some of the folks that we know, we were talking about doing an exhibition for curling for the kids here in Toronto in August, bringing some of the, medalist curlers in and like doing a learn to curl, doing a bit of an exhibition. Because to your point, we'd love to see it, right? And Israeli curling is starting to grow. The Israeli wheelchair curling team won a bronze medal at the Invictus Games.
Oh, wow.
In 2025, and wheelchair curling has become really, really big. The Israeli curling team actually played in the tier, kind of in the B tier of the European Championships this year. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we want to see the sport grow everywhere. And just because of my personal experiences, like Maccabee, it was such an incredible moment. Like, I will never forget those 2 times I got to play for Canada. Yeah, I think, again, no promises, but we are hard at work trying to figure out how to bring the sport to the young Jewish athletes. Because let's face it, that's how you grow a sport. You can get the older, you can get the older ones playing, but really to facilitate true grassroots, expansion and growth, it's about the kids. So we got to expose them to the sport first.
We're seeing right now a very big boom in Jewish hockey. And I feel like you guys are immediately adjacent to that in terms of like an athletic community-based winter sport. There's Jewish hockey leagues all over the world, and, we're seeing that sort of benefit to the community and the NHL with players like Zach Hyman or fellow Olympic medalists, Jack and Quinn Hughes, Korey, who, are from the East Coast, grew up all over America, but also Jewish. But your question leads me to wonder, do you know of any other top tier Jewish curlers? There was an internal debate we had about Danny Casper. We couldn't figure it out. We're not sure if, Korey, you might be the only one that we know of, but have you made the connection with anybody else? I assume the Swedish brother and sister are probably not Jewish.
I don't think so. No, but what I would say is, I mean, I love sharing my passion for the sport with others that want to get into it, so, anyone that's interested, feel free to reach out, and happy to get involved with the growth, especially in the Jewish community. I'd be happy to, just be there to help promote the opportunities and the growth of the sport.
Yeah. Well, why don't we leave it there? I think we're all really excited to see how Rock League goes. We wish you guys really well. And I would say for Jews in Toronto, especially people with young kids, if you're off for Passover, there's often a school break. Go check out Rock League. What a great thing to do. It's right downtown. I love the Mattamy.
The arena's fantastic.
I know for people who aren't in the know, it's what Maple Leaf Gardens used to be Maple Leaf Gardens.
And really, to circle it back to a previous question, is if you're wondering as to whether those athletes are going to be out having a couple or not, maybe go across the street to Mickey Finn's, because I think she's going to get hit hard that week.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I want to thank Nick and Korey for chatting with us, hearing about their stories. You don't meet a lot of Jewish Nicks. There are some.
I had a Jewish friend named Nick growing up, and there's some. I don't know why, though. It doesn't seem like a particularly Christian name.
I think that there's a saint, the Saint Nicholas. I mean, he's a cartoon character.
Saint James, Saint Gabriel, I'm sure.
That's true.
Whatever. But lots of things have shared things. I guess Nick. There's no Nick in the Old Testament, I don't think.
Maybe a Nicky, little Nicky. He'd be a famous Nick. I mean, he's a demon, but that is Christian when you think about it in a way, not that Jewish. But no, so I'm happy for Nick to chat with us and tell us his story, his Jewish story. We don't similarly,
and despite what I said before about names with a K indicating non-Judaism, Korey Dropkin, Korey with a K.
It's very funny to hear. Nick, as he talked about his background as a rugby player, played in the Maccabi games for rugby. You get a Jewish rugby player and a Jewish curler together, and it sounds like the start of like some sort of joke. But no, there was a fabulous interview. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck to the Rock League. We hope it does well. And I know there's a lot of Canadian curlers. I don't no longer have to cheer against Korey Dropkin. Like I can just pick his team as the team I want to cheer for.
Right.
Hoping to get down there myself this week and see and maybe have a sip or two with Mr. Dropkin himself.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's a great sport for kids to watch and get into. Curling is such a great spectator sport.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I only tried it once when I was a kid, but it'd be nice to get back out there throwing some rocks again.
We know how well curling televises too, so I'm excited to see the broadcast a little bit of this. I might tune in throughout the week. It'll be on Sportsnet, from what I understand.
I think CBC.
CBC, yes, it'll be on CBC.
Yeah.
And then we'll hopefully connect with them in the seasons to come.
Yeah, thanks again to them. And thanks to our producer, Michael, as always, for producing us. Thanks to Canadian Jewish News for putting us out. As always, you can find our podcast and articles and everything else at the Canadian Jewish News website, thecjn.ca. You can like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Download it to your phone, have one of your nephews figure it out for you, and figure out the tech side of things. And follow us on Twitter, Twitter at Menschwarmers, where we're always tweeting about, mostly clips of Jews doing cool baseball things right now when they come up, and other things going on in the Jewish sports world.
The occasional David Lipsky update, a muzzle to him for his second place finish at the Valspar Open. We'll talk about that more next week.
That's true. More golf focus next week. I think we're coming back right next week in time for the Masters, or right after the Masters.
Right after the Masters,
we'll finish
in time for the RBC Heritage. That's just as important.
Yeah. But the Masters has pretty decent Jewish representation. There's 3 Jews competing this year: Daniel Berger, Max Homa, and Max Grazerman, we should say before we go. So if you need a rooting interest, I think all 3 of them could certainly be in the mix. Max Grazerman's as good a golfer as anyone if he keeps his head together. I think he can really hit it.
He'll get there.
And he'll get there. Anyways, thanks for listening as always, and we'll be back with you shortly.